Hi, everyone, and welcome to Under Pressure, the podcast that serves pressure washing community. I am very excited to be here in our kickoff episode with Jonathon Peters from TCHEM. Jonathon, say hi to the world.
Hey, world, how's it going? Hope it's warm and sunny where you're at, because it's gotten warm here in North Carolina, so I'm excited about that.
Outstanding. Well, it's freezing cold up here in Cape Cod. The wind is blowing. It's 38 degrees, and I don't want to go outside, so we'll stay in here and talk to you. So anyway, Jonathon is one of the real brains in the industry, and we're excited to have him as an industry expert to really kind of talk about some of the things that, especially as we're going into the end of the year and the holidays are approaching, and we are hearing all kinds of things out there about supply chain problems and inability to get equipment and chemicals. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're also going to talk today about really how do we get ourselves prepared for the next year by getting equipment now and getting some of those tax advantages that are associated with that. So just to give everyone, for those of you who haven't met Jonathon or seen him out there in the pressure washing world, Jonathon is the owner of TCHEM Industrial Services. And it's more than just a pressure washing store. They formulate and manufacture a lot of their stuff in-house as far as the chemicals for washing, commercial truck washing, industrial heavy equipment sector. And their real goal is not just to sell equipment. It's really about helping the marketplace and helping them become successful entrepreneurs and helping to grow their business, which is really right in line with what we're trying to do. And that's why we thought Jonathon would be a great fit for our company moving forward. So Jonathon, talk to me a little bit about, number one, how did you get into the industry? What was your focus? What were some of the things that really kind of got you excited about this sector?
Well, it's my business partner is my father, and he had been in this industry since I was, probably 10 years old. And I remember as a kid, him washing trucks on the side just to kind of gain some extra business, which seems to be a lot of what our customers do. So he started formulating stuff on his own because he got tired of using other people's water, for lack of a better way to put it. And so that's kind of how this started. Now, there was never any intention to take this any further other than just to kind of put my, myself and my sister through college. So, Dad and I had talked on and off about it for a while now. And I spent quite a few years in healthcare. Had climbed the corporate ladder and realized one day that, healthcare is a very hard industry and it was time to not be there anymore. So my father had reached the age, mid-60s, was looking to kind of scale back, but didn't want to work for someone because he'd been on his own for so many years. So we decided to partner, took just the two of us. 7 years later, we've got 10 employees and just kind of have really enjoyed this market. But what we did was took the products that we had, the chemicals that we were making, and then just kind of said, okay, what else will complete what we're offering our customers? So that's when we decided to look at carrying parts, equipment. Then it looked into, okay, how many technicians do we need to do to service machines for guys to keep them on the road? And what we realized in the industry is a lot of places are very compartmentalized when it comes to what they work on. So we just decided to, well, you know what, if it comes through the door and it needs repair, we're going to fix it. So that's really helped out with us to be able to grow our market here in the Greensboro, Kernersville area. And then it just now, as we go forward, when something comes up or as the market changes, we'll add that product to our store, or we'll, do some research on if we can blend something along those lines and offer it. Instead of offering someone else's, we'll offer our own. So it's funny because this industry has grown so fast over the last 5 years, where there were people in this industry, but now it has become national, and even your big boxes are selling pressure washers. 5 years ago, you couldn't go to Walmart and buy a pressure washer. Now you can. So, we've had to adjust that. But, that's on the homeowner side. We tend to like to stay in the commercial, industrial side where you guys that are doing it for a living, so that way there's a partnership there between us where we're able to help them, make money for their family, and it just benefits us in long-term relationships.
Yeah. And it's important to, from a strictly business point of view, I have a pressure washer at my house,
Yeah.
right? And I'll go out and I'll pressure wash the deck and I'll pressure wash the furniture, and it's like an all day event.
That's right. That's right.
Like all
That's
of
right.
I'm soaking wet, my arms are vibrating, and but when we have the house cleaned and a pressure washer comes by, we've also when we first bought the house we had and they did the whole thing in like 3 hours. I was amazed how fast they got through and how clean it looked. Right. So it's the home version of pressure washing is definitely not the same thing. So it's a much higher level of expertise and speed and knowledge and know what they're doing. Yeah. And what really shocked me was when I my first experience with the corporate side of pressure washing was I went to the huge conference, and that's where I was introduced to you when I was there. I was shocked how big that conference was. I thought I was going to go to a small little conference, maybe 100 people. That place was mobbed, and not just like the individual person, but like large businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses that are out there, driving the industry. When did you first realize, when you had your store, when you were first getting started, when did you first realize that there's an entire community here that I really have to kind of grow out into servicing?
It's funny. We partnered in 2014. And by the end, I'd say about mid-year of 2015, it took a year to kind of really, our footprint's here, start talking with the guys that we were already selling chemicals to. Because what was happening is guys were coming here buying chemicals from us because, we're selling a concentrated version of chemical instead of a watered down version. And then yet they were going somewhere else to buy the parts, do the service, those kind of things. So what we did is we just kind of sat down and said, okay, who are we offering all these chemicals to? What are they buying now? Now, what else do they do? So we just took a snapshot. Instead of saying, all right, we're going to go out and market to all these new customers, we just decided to look at our current, customer basket and really focus in on maximizing what we do for 50 customers as opposed to trying to go out and get, 250 customers that only buy 1 drum of chemical. So that's how we kind of, we really took our business and said, okay, these companies do this, so we need a technician that can service these style of equipment. These customers buy this, so now we need to put someone in the store that can manage inventory and making sure we get those products. So that's kind of the way we've done that. And it's been interesting because, like you were saying, that was my first actual convention too that I had gone to, and I was actually kind of floored at the amount of people that were there. And it just kind of reaffirms to me that, with COVID going on, everybody wants to start their own business, so everybody's got a side hustle going on, which was fantastic. But it told me what we need to do is there are a million products out there, and some guys like this trigger gun versus this trigger gun, they ultimately do the same thing. So how we maximize selling to them is by telling them what works and being that go-to, and almost going back to like old school customer service. We are there with a smile and a handshake, and we're going to make it happen for you. It's not like, they can access anything they want online. They can get all the information, but they know when they call us that we stand by our word because, if I got to go out and do a demo for them, we're going to go do that demo, where you can't get that online. So you can watch 100 YouTube videos, but that doesn't actually do anything when you go out and stand in front of the brick yourself. So that's
it almost sounds like when I was growing up. We didn't have the Home Depots. We had the True Value, and you had that guy there in the apron. That had the answer to everything you could possibly need to fix. So that's kind of more your mentality.
That's right. We've gone back and forth about do we go full on scale into e-commerce and really kind of compete in the national market. Or do we just kind of to focus in on what we're doing here locally and really just capture every pressure washer that's here local? They can buy their products elsewhere too, and it's the same stuff. But you know what? Ultimately, they're coming to us because they know that we're going to produce for them and we'll always have it in stock. And if we don't, we're going to make it happen that they've got something else that they can use instead. So, it's kind of, you're right, going back to that red apron on, that we're the guys that we're manufacturing and we're doing it, and then we're going to provide you with that service that you need. So,
great. Well, that's certainly a throwback. Customer service is in high demand, but rarely seen these days.
Yeah,
so I'm
amen
sure
to that.
The people in your community, I'm sure, are really happy to have you there. So let's tap into a little bit of that brain power that we brought you on for, and we're getting into the end of the year. A lot of tax implications are out there for companies as we're kind of moving into 2022, and great time to purchase equipment,
Right.
get some additional write-offs, get that profit margin down a little bit lower so that Uncle Sam doesn't take quite a big bite of the apple. What's coming in the next year? What should they be prepared for? How should they reevaluate their equipment and what they should be utilizing? And let's throw this one on top of that is, what's the new big product that's coming out in this industry?
So we'll touch on that topic first. So what we're seeing is gallons per minute. That's always kind of been you hear pressure washing. Everybody thinks, well, I got to have pressure. Well, and really, it shouldn't be called a pressure washer. It should be called something like gallons per minute machine, because flow of water, or like the flow machine, because flow of water is what actually does the cleaning. In certain instances, pressure is really good. But for most substrates, like washing your home on your siding, you don't want to put pressure on the siding. It can, or on wood, you don't want to do that. So, but what we're seeing is a big influx into more gallons per minute. So, like this over the last year and a half, 8 gallons a minute has become like a big catchphrase. That's everybody wants a big unit, lots of flow. But now we're starting to see a shift even into more flow, 10 gallon a minute units, starting to get in the double digits, which, they've always been around, but that's more for, environmental companies that are moving tons of water, trying to get rid of tons of, material or debris, trying to move that. But what we're seeing is the more building that happens in commercial spaces, more concrete, that now all these things are having to be cleaned. So you need more flow to clean all these surfaces. So there's been a big push into that, which has been good. So it's kind of like, at the end of the year, what guys are doing, unfortunately, is I think they wait till mid-season and realize that they've now gotten, 3 or 4, we'll just say large apartment complexes to clean. They got a 5 gallon a minute unit, and they're working with a surface cleaner that's 16 inches, and they've got, a couple 100,000 square foot of surface they now got to clean. So they want to come in and upgrade mid-season with a 8 gallon a minute unit or a 10 gallon a minute unit, buy a surface cleaner. And it's like, well, if you'd have given that some thought on, October, November, December, quarter 4, on what are your goals for, say 2022, you could have purchased those units now, had them ready to go, so you hit the ground running in March and April, as opposed to waiting till May or June and then trying to say, man, I've got to get it now. Let's just throw it on a trailer and then we'll patch it together so I can go do these jobs. So we try to counsel our guys on that, try to give them that thought process. It's like, hey, you know what? Let's plan this out. If this is the direction you're really kind of going into, let's sit down in October, plan out a trailer build, and then let's plan that for November, December. So A, you can plan your money. You're going to talk to your accountants, and then B, it gives us time to get everything in house. And we can do the fabrication to fit your need instead of just throwing it on a trailer, throwing 4 bolts in the unit and plugging a hose to it, because it doesn't necessarily always work that well. So,
well, so you want to make sure that the strategy is there, because, and a lot of people don't think this way, but the last thing you want to be doing is piecing together your equipment when it's time for you to be doing sales.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly right. So, and two, these guys, a lot of these guys, they'll get out there, and I know, especially new incoming guys, we've all been new in a business, and you're on a shoestring budget and you're trying to make it happen. But what we always try to tell guys is, man, if you're out on a job and your equipment fails, what's your backup plan? What's your backup plan? I don't care if you're just getting started or not. You always got to have plan B, because the worst thing that could happen is you've bid a job to go clean a house for $200. Now you're going to have to stop mid job, go get us to fix it, for say $150. Well, the job's, it's a wash at that point. So we try to talk those guys into that.
Consider the time you've lost. Right. If you consider the time you lost, and if you're worth $100 an hour, that probably turned into a $350 loss because you didn't plan ahead.
And that's the thing. It's like, well, I can't afford another unit. Well, you don't have to have another unit, but you got to have another source of A, getting chemical out there, and B, being able to rinse it. So those are the things that there are so many different options other than just pressure washers that allow you to do those things. So that's where, we've been able to help guys kind of plan through that and think through that. Because the beauty is a lot of these guys that are, that are gung-ho in this for their business, they've thought through that. They know what they want. And, thanks to YouTube and everything, there's so many videos and so many things that guys post now. So you can kind of go to the buffet, so to speak, and look at all the different variations you want and then kind of fit it to your need, whether you want to, are you going to pull up on, so I mean, like one thing, are you going to pull up on the left side of your trailer on the curb? Or are you going to pull up on the right side? Do you like, pulling in or pulling out? I mean, where are your hoses going to pull off? Those kind of things that these guys aren't going to think about. That's what we, that's what we sleep on is, okay, which side do the hoses pull off? Do they pull off the back, the front? All those things. So, it's been interesting because one of the questions I'll ask some of these guys as I get to know them is what do your accountants say about where you are currently? Do you know your numbers? Do you know this? And a lot of the guys are like, well, I just scan and send my receipts and they send them right to them. And then at tax time, we just figure that out. And I'm like, oh my goodness. That hurts my head just thinking about that. Right. Yeah. But, I get it. Everybody's been new in a business and they're just trying to figure that out. But, we try to talk them through that. Like, okay, you know what? I know what's your budget, and then, okay, do we want to maximize your budget or do we want to, do we kind of want to just piece this together? So we always have those conversations.
Right.
And man, I'm so blessed to have guys like Steve who run my showroom. That he's so good at asking those questions and just really getting to know the guys. We're not trying to sell equipment, man. We're trying to build a relationship. I mean, and that's the key. It's not for us. It's not trying to get you out the door and get the money collected. It's literally what time do we have to spend so that way you constantly come back over the course of your relationship. As long as you're in business and we're here, man, that's what we want. We want you 100% committed to us for the eternity, for the long haul in your business. So that's kind of our goal.
Right. I was reading an article that Warren Buffett had written. I think it was in Forbes about 2 months ago. And one of the things he talked about was if you start chasing money as a business person, you're going to be chasing money for the rest of your life. Yeah. And he talked about, if you commit to your customer, really commit to them, show them that, you got your back all the way through it. You're a source of advice. You can offer things beyond just here's a product, here's a dollar. He said that then the money starts chasing you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And when that happened, I mean, a lot of people love Warren Buffett. A lot of people can't stand him. But when you have $100 billion in the bank and you're still driving a 12-year-old pickup truck and you're living in a 2,800 square foot ranch, the guy's got a little bit of common sense.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
But the listeners out there who are really getting started, to take some pointers from that experience. That we take, when you get started, you're taking every deal, you're taking everything you can get. You can be a little bit selective because some of those deals that you take could be really bad ones for you and waste a lot of your time. When you could put your effort into a really good deal, develop a really good relationship with that customer, make sure that you're the first person on their mind and grow from that. Yeah. So that's an important thing. Okay, Jonathan, we're gonna take a 15-second time out here to pay some bills, and we'll be right back.
You certainly can't afford to give profit away for no reason. But what if I told you credit card processors may be overcharging you and robbing you of profits you've worked hard to earn? It's time to put an end to being overcharged for payment processing. It's time to take back your profits. That's why we've put together a free report, How to Avoid Being Overcharged by Your Payment Processor. Head over to takebackyourprofits.com, download the report, and put an end to being overcharged for credit card processing. You've worked hard for your sales, and you deserve to keep it. What are you waiting for? Go to takebackyourprofits.com and download your report today.
Okay, folks, we are back here with John Peters from TCHEM, and we're going to wrap up our podcast today talking about some issues with supply chain and chemical shortages and equipment shortages that are out there right now. And we were, in the break, Jonathan and I were talking about if you're going to have a supply chain crisis for the pressure washing industry, this is probably the better time of year to have it than the middle of the summer. So Hopefully it'll be cleared out by the time we get to the summer, which from what what the government's telling us, they think they're going to get it worked out. We'll see. But how's it affecting the industry? How's it affecting your store? How's it affecting the guys out in the field? And what kind of plans do you have in place to really fight this supply chain shortage?
Man, it is affecting us a lot. But with our business too, we're twofold because we manufacture, and then we also have the store where a lot of our competition, they'll just have a store. They're not an actual manufacturer. So what we're seeing, we'll just start with the manufacturing side is just shortage of chemicals. And it's so, it'll be like, the market will be flooded with it. And then overnight it's gone. So, and then it's just scramble. And then you got pricing increases. So what we're trying to do with that is just kind of maintain a certain level of inventory where we didn't normally do that. So what I had to do was we started, we put into play where we started storing more in larger tanks. So, instead of mixing to order, so to speak, real-time inventory kind of thing, we just decided where, what we're going to do is double that, make sure we always have that in stock and just kind of go that. And it's been hard chasing margin because the ever changing chemical market, trying to change prices all the time. I mean, it's unfair to almost change your pricing every week, but we've had to do that, which has made it a little bit more difficult with some of our customers. But the beauty about that is they understand. And, we're you just get ahead of it a little bit. So instead of every week, you just skip a week because you just go up. And so that's what we've tried to implement some of that. Now down in the store, the problem is like what we were talking about in the earlier question about year-end purchasing. These guys are basically they're living paycheck to paycheck, so to speak. So they're not keeping things in stock. They're just kind of, as it breaks, they'll come get it. So what we've been telling them, man, is like we ran a big special for, the whole month of November where try to stock up on all your, trigger guns, your wands, all those things that are use items. So that way, if they break, you've got it on there and you're not having to come to us and hope that we got our order in because those things aren't coming in. One of our biggest suppliers just told us that it's a big pump that, not just us, but across the industry use. They all come out of Italy. There's none in the air, none on the water, and none on the shelves. That's what we were told. So it's like, wow. Well, so what's that mean? What does that mean for them? What does that mean for these people that are manufacturing machines? So it's one of those things where it's kind of like, okay, now how do we adjust on the fly? What do we pivot to? But that's why we don't stick to one brand. We try to make sure we have multiple options that you can, that you can add. So like if you've got a general pump and you want to switch over to an AR pump or a cat, we try to make sure we have all those things in there. So that way there's always an option. And the beauty is, the technicians that we have are able to fabricate. So we can change your setup, pretty much on site. So that way, if there needs to be a big adjustment, there can be that adjustment. So.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, how does, as far as the inventory purchases go, when chemical is available and you have to buy in bulk, how's that affecting the cash flow of your business?
It's affecting it big time because we're having to commit more funds up front to hold that in stock. But the beauty about that is it locks in your price. So that's kind of what we've decided to do is really focus in on locking in price to produce volume as opposed to just trying to making sure we're always getting that margin. So, if the margin's a little higher, if the price is a little bit higher at that point, you know what? If we can grab a couple totes of it right now, let's lock it in because a month from now, it's guaranteed that it's going to continue to rise. It's
going to go up. Right.
So that's kind of what we're seeing now is we buy when we can, and just like we're building a relationship with our customers, we've done the same with our vendors. So, we've got a couple guys that, really built a good relationship with it. They know when they have whatever we use in stock, they call me and it's like, okay, this is what we've got. This is how long it's going to be. Do you want to buy, 1, 2, 3, 4 pallets of it as opposed to just as you need to order? So that's what we've been doing. We've dedicated some extra warehouse space to kind of just stocking it in there and, being a little bit more lean when it comes to cash flow, but at the end result, man, it's been able to boost our margins. Or we've been chasing margins. Right. It's been able to boost that margin because we always have it on hand. Right.
Now, are you? It's interesting. I've talked to quite a few owners, and of course, through several different verticals. And one of the common things that we're talking about a lot, which is unusual at this point, is national level politics actually is playing directly into our businesses for the real first time. Because most of the time, you don't even pay attention to it. They're doing their thing, we'll do our thing. But there's some very scalable issues going on right now where there's we're looking at injecting trillions of dollars into the marketplace that could really trigger certain levels of runaway inflation. So people who are dealing in hard products like you guys, my company provides a service, so my numbers don't change in that type of environment. Matter of fact, we do better in inflationary periods than we do in non-inflationary periods. But when you're dealing with products, you got to pay close attention to this, because you might be better off in 3 months to rent more space and buy more product and just have it based on where it's going to go for the spring. Looking at the market, and that brings us to my last question for the podcast. When you're looking at the market and you're seeing the spring rolling around as we get through winter, how do you big picture us for a second? How do you see where we're going in the industry? Do you see things improving, after January? Do you think it's going to be a very strong market? I know, even with you guys, the housing market affects you guys to a high degree as well, with purchases. Where do you see this big picture? Where's it all going?
So what we do is, 'cause we stay diversified. Diversification is the main thing. So like what we tell guys, instead of just washing a house, make house washing 75% of your business and do 25% in commercial. Commercial is going to be always there. Yeah, the margin's not as good, but you know what? They're going to clean 12 months out of the year. Whereas the housing market, once it gets below 40 degrees and it turns to Thanksgiving, nobody's thinking about washing their house anymore. They're thinking about how they're going to pay for Christmas. So, what we do is we just kind of look at each sector that we're in. So what we've done is we have a heating season where we sell, certain things, and then it goes on into the spring. But man, this is the hardest time when I've sat and looked at next year, how to plan for next year, based on inflation, based on, all the markers that are out there that are telling us all that something's going to happen, that, how do we plan for this? What kind of inventory are we going to stock? Do we go all in right now and, like you said, get some more warehouse space and just jam it full, or do we scale back?
Or cash.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's like Russian roulette right now is what it feels like. But what we've done is.
And it's extreme, John. That's the thing. Your decisions are two total ends of the spectrum, as opposed to like normally you drift one way 5 degrees, another way 5 degrees, but it's either you're all in or you're all out, and that's the option we're being.
I know, it's scary. But and it kind of happened. It really happened when we came down to Atlanta to the Huge Convention. Like with meeting you, working on this relationship, I got introduced to some other people in the industry that I hadn't had access to before, and so we've kind of these strategic partnerships where we're sharing inventory. So like we'll have something, they have something.
Great idea.
Yeah, and that has made it so much easier because now, like if I don't have a unit on the floor and I need it, we call them, they ship it, and vice versa. Yeah, we make a little bit less money, but you know what? That customer got what they wanted when they wanted it, as opposed to being like, you know what? That's 6 months out. Because that's what's happening. Is some of the production is being told to us, it's 6 to 8 months out before we can get you these products. It's like, well, that's the end of next season. How does that work? So, that's really what we've looked at this year is we're still battling that question about inventory. I mean, I wish I could give you that perfect answer where it's like, yeah, we're going to stock this amount of stuff.
If you could, you would be on this podcast.
Exactly. We'd be on a beach right now somewhere. That's what we'd be doing.
Right.
So.
Right. You dropped a little diamond there that I just want to go back to and make which is a great point. You've had a couple of real insightful things that you've dropped in there, but one of them, to all the new guys that are going to be listening to the podcast out there, build your business through abundance. Don't be terrified of your competition. Work with them.
That's right.
We all grow together. I mean, it's a real cliche that when the water rises, all boats float, but it is one of the truest things you'll ever see. collaboration with people in your market space. I've seen in other industries where companies work with their competitor that's right next door to them, and they both grow together really well. And what a great idea, strategic. That's a real solid strategy to develop relationships where you could share inventory, especially in these uncertain times. You're really taking that cash flow load and moving it around a little bit, and helping keep yourself a little more cash rich. So. That was a hidden little gem in your speech there.
Thank you. It's kind of just happened upon that, It's a trial and error thing,
Well, everything's experience, and as we get older, we've bumped into so many different problems, and that's one of the great things about what your company does, and hopefully that's very much in line with what we do is share that experience and help people get to where they're going faster.
That's right. And we're all looking for someone that we can just bounce ideas off. A lot of these guys are, it's them and their wives and a couple hourly employees, and they've got nowhere to go for that advice. And you know what? I don't pressure wash for a living, but you know what? We're in the same, like you said, we're in the same market space. We're able to have those conversations, and we can help them kind of brainstorm through the problem, and then ultimately they get to go out and do the work. And it has no reflection on us because they're the ones that, are doing it. But what it's done now is it's built that relationship for us. And two, we get phone calls all the time. Hey, do you guys pressure wash? No, but here's a small list of guys that I trust because of these brainstorm sessions. Now we've built that rapport. Right. So like you said, man, it's just the money is staying in the community. And like my business partner, my dad always says, when you spend money locally, it recirculates 7 times within that community. And think of all the local businesses that get rewarded by that, by recirculating that money locally. Right.
One of my old partners used to tell me, when you think about being an owner, one of the main points he told me was it's Christmas for businesses too. So at the end of the year, get the new gear that you want, plan for the next year, get the proper equipment, save yourself the tax money, and be ready to fly when spring rolls around. That's right. And the second thing he told me, which leads into what you're saying, is nobody is an owner until you sell a company. You're an employee of your company, just like everybody else. Right. Stop acting like you're the big cheese. Get to work, build relationships, treat people the way you want to be treated, and stop thinking of yourself as an owner because you're not until you sell it.
That's exactly right, man. You're not willing to go out and push a broom with the rest of the guys, man. You're no good.
Yep. Absolutely. So we're going to wrap this one up there, John. If you're interested in joining our group here, just subscribe by hitting the button below. We're going to be back next week again with our brand new Under Pressure podcast. And I just want to thank John for jumping in and joining us on our kickoff event. And we're going to be blessed by having John a few times down the road, too. John's a really good source. If you have any questions for John, leave them with us. We'll make sure we get them off to Jonathon, and we'll see if Jonathon can get those answered for you.
Awesome, man.
So, Jonathon, thank you so much for being here. It was a real pleasure getting to know you a little bit better, and we look forward to working with you down the road.
You too, David. It was a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the bell so you won't miss our next episode. This episode was produced by Jake Aronson. This has been a Pair Payments production.